building out like a little tool here and a little tool there, very cute. And it's good to, my goal is not to fire my team. My goal is really to enable my team to scale to a bigger agency, right? We have 32 people in house. I want to have 32 people managing, 50, 100 clients.
Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level.
Everyone's talking about AI like it is the future, but for top Amazon sellers, it's already the present. But there is so much noise and there's not a lot of action and not a lot of direction as to what actually needs to be automated with AI in your e-commerce business. Well, guess what? Today's guest has some answers for you and tactile things that you should be automating with AI in your business today. Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley. I scaled my own brand from 0 to 8 figures in sales, and now my mission is to take it to over 9 figures. On my journey to 9 figures, I bring you the unfiltered conversations with the smartest minds in e-commerce. Past guests include Ezra Firestone, Kevin King, and Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth. Today, I am super excited to introduce you all to a good friend of mine, Lee Assoulin. Lee is the founder and CEO of Stonecutter, a boutique Amazon brand management agency that partners with premium brands to scale profitably on the world's largest marketplace. With over 12 years of Amazon expertise, Lee has guided venture-backed startups, heritage brands, and category leaders through the complexities of the platform, combining strategic depth with operational rigor. He's currently managing over $220 million in annual revenue while building an AI-powered infrastructure to redefine how agencies operate. His mission is to prove that premium brands can win on Amazon without compromising on quality or brand equity with an agency that they can trust. With that introduction, welcome to the show, Lee.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
Lee, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast here today. We've met at multiple events, and every time I've had a conversation with you, I've always been impressed with your depth of knowledge on Amazon, the team that you've built, everything that you are doing with an agency yourself, and then being able to apply those tactics even to brand owners. So I know that you are in kind of like the rooms with all like the smartest sellers, and you're going to be sharing like what's going on today, especially in the world of AI. And honestly, I just feel like there's so much noise. And Lee, what are you hearing on your side? You've been to a lot of the MDS events, other masterminds. Like, what's everybody doing in the world of e-com and AI right now?
Like you mentioned, I've been in this space for about 12 years, a little over 12 years now on the Amazon side of things. And it is the most pivotal moment, I think, that we've had. Where it comes to Amazon itself, a lot of people are automating because Amazon, unlike 2016, where it was the Wild West and you can kind of do anything and test every single thing, Amazon's a lot more mature of a platform. So like, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, like the SOPs can deviate from one company to another on efficiency, on style, but it's really relatively similar as to how things get done. And so if you have a good process in place, there's a very good chance that you can automate a large portion of that process while keeping a human in the loop, because you don't want to just let AI totally take over and run everything if you're a large seller. You can do that if you're a smaller seller, and then you have a little mistake here or there. But I think if you have 8, 9 figures on the line, that's where things get a little bit scary. What is very interesting as I talk to more and more sellers that are larger is that they're actually not hyper focused on AI because they're hyper focused on scaling their business. AI is so new that the people that are smaller and scrappier are the ones that are really kind of getting their hands dirty and trying to figure out how to save costs and be more efficient. Whereas the ones that are kind of 8 figures and scaling to 9 are the ones that are focusing on their business, on the core of their business, like, hey, like TikTok or Meta. And there are opportunities to scale utilizing AI, but for now, I think that I don't say they're missing the boat. They're focusing on it, but they're hiring somebody in order to do that as opposed to getting their own hands dirty.
Love that. Well, Lee, I think the bigger question though, too, is entrepreneurs have the classic shiny object syndrome where, it's, hey, what's the latest sales platform that everybody's crushing it on? And right now the hot girl at the dance is like TikTok. And so everybody's kind of like pointing their direction over to TikTok. But then you also have AI coming in, which I think is like, can be an endless rabbit hole of you just getting lost in sometimes automating things that maybe don't need to be automated, or automating things that are just like, it's kind of fun. I had a conversation yesterday with another guest that just said, like, the crazy thing about AI, and it's almost like playing a video game where you get these like dopamine hits on an ongoing basis because you're like, oh my goodness, I just did this. Well, what about this? What about that? And so like you're getting like these dopamine hits. So you hear multiple people, even you and I, where it's like, I just stayed up way too late last night because I was in the AI rabbit hole, and I just kept like getting win after win after win. And like, you can see that future. However, my caveat to that, Lee, and I think we're kind of on the same page here, is like, AI can be great, and I think there's a strong use case for it, but it can also be a massive distraction if you don't use it to focus on the right things in the business. And so, Lee, what would you kind of say, like, what are you doing, and what are like the tactile things that you are using AI to automate in your own business so you don't get distracted down the rabbit holes of endless AI optimization?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I actually just gave this analogy to my team the other day because I'm a massive shiny coin guy. I think most entrepreneurs are. It's like, oh, like, okay, TikTok. It's like, okay, everybody just jumps to it because it's an opportunity, and we're all opportunistic. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily be entrepreneurs. The issue here is, and I assume everybody in your audience has watched the movie Aladdin because, like, I mean, it's classic, but it's going into that layer, and you have these mounds of shiny coins literally everywhere, and you're kind of stuffing your bag and like, oh my God, like there's rubies and there's gold and there's this and there's that. But really the prize is the lantern. It's like, but you're just distracted. And that's sort of the biggest problem here, because you hear all of your friends being like, I automated this process. And it's like, well, I want to automate that process. The question is that worth automating in your own business? And so what I tell everybody to do is kind of take a step back. And that's what we've done at Stonecutter, is at my agency, we really stopped to say, hey, what are we actually doing that can be automated? And we are very SOP oriented. As an agency, you kind of have to be. So it's like, what are our processes? And then how do we automate from there? So what we've kind of done is re-scrubbed every process that we have, every SOP that we have, and figured out, okay, well, what's the roadmap? And then from there, it's mostly about the framework. How are these things going to be knit together in a bigger, grander scheme of things? Because building out like a little tool here and a little tool there is very cute, and it's good to, my goal is not to fire my team. My goal is really to enable my team to scale to a bigger agency, right? We have 32 people in house. I want to have 32 people managing, 50, 100 clients, but with utilizing these tools. And I want to have those people be A players. That's really like the goal. With a faulty framework, with a faulty foundation, that all falls apart. And so I don't think enough people are stopping to actually think about what that framework is. I think they're just running and saying, oh, this person is doing image optimization. Like, I got to do that. And then I also I also have to optimize my PPC. And then I also want to be automating this, like, notifications and meta. And then also like this script writing for TikTok. And none of those, I mean, those are all very important, but building a system of, okay, well, how do these things talk to each other? And then where do they live and who's using them? That's sort of, I hate to say like the most important part, but if you want to mature your company, that's where you're going to need to be.
Yeah, Lee, I think you hit the nail on the head there as you talked about being SOP driven first and foremost. I want to get your take on this, Lee, because I hear this more often than not. Most people are like, hey, yeah, I'm using Claude to go automate all of my PPC. And it's like, okay. I feel like what's interesting, though, about PPC is it's very nuanced. And as you know this, I don't think there's one playbook for PPC that works across the board. I think every brand is unique. I mean, you deal with multiple brands, so you 100%. Can tell me your take. But I think, like, for us, I have taken bits and pieces from Brandon Young's PPC stuff, from some of the other, like the Scale Insights guys and some other people from MDS. And it's like, I've just kind of merged it all together with what works for our brand. So with that being said, like, as you look at enabling AI, do you see it as either of these two options? Number one, I personally think that AI is first have all of your SOPs dialed in, and it needs to be a repeatable, proven process already that then you light up with AI, and AI could definitely train itself and get better time and time again. That's one avenue. Or I just like light up an OpenClaw or something, and I'm like, take the best practices from all the best, like I can load it with a bunch of the YouTube videos and whatnot. Be like, take these best practices, go manage my ad account and let it go do its thing. Like, which of those is the right option in the world of AI right now?
Yeah, listen, again, I think in terms of scale, if you were doing $1 million a year on Amazon, it's not a small amount of money whatsoever. Are you going to sit and figure out, okay, well, how do I fix my PPC and be the human in the loop there? Maybe not. You might turn around and be like, you know what, listen, let's take this person's best practices and this person's, and I want to light up an open call and I want to totally automate this because I need to focus on other avenues. And PPC really kind of like can detract from that. And if it's 80% done, it's 100% awesome, right? I think the moment you start to get, like, we manage brands over, typically our brands do over $10 million on their own. Mostly it's like 20 million plus. Those are bigger budgets where it's like, I have never used one of these, I'm not going to say all the names of all these other PPC AI softwares I'm talking about before ChatGPT that were black box, that were like, oh, we're using, these like
machine learning,
right? Learning, algorithmic, etc. I never trusted them. They have good results, but they would make 5,000 campaigns, each one single. I was like, I don't understand what you're doing in my software, in my account. And like you said, every account is different. Every ASIN is different as to like what the goal is. And so in our own framework, we look at every single ASIN, not by product A, B, C, D, like most people do on a prio basis. But we also look at like, where is it in the life cycle? Is this in scale mode? Are we optimizing for profitability? Are we exiting this product? So we have different levels of the life cycle, and then we also tag it with A, B, C, D, and then that determines what we should be doing. That's a framework, way of thinking before we implement AI to do anything, which we had to sit and really think about that as an agency, because every client is different and every ASIN is different. So how do we really manage this across all? Where it comes to PPC, it's if you're getting in and then you have the same process over and over of like, okay, we're going to negative keyword this because of this every single week. Great, get AI in the loop on that. But I always still have humans, at least at the moment, managing those agents themselves.
Love it. So Lee, true or false? Within the next 12 months, you see somebody building a $100 million brand with one person and just a bunch of bots running for it.
I will say very potentially true, but like that person has to hit the right product at the right time with the right, like it's got to be, I don't think that it's going to be 5 people. I think it's like one kid that happened to sell creatine when Joe Rogan said creatine is hot and the guy happens to have all the right things in place. I don't think it'll be one person. I think it'll be a team of, 4, I don't want to say kids, but I do think like the younger you are, the luckier you are right now. Although a lot of people say that they're not, but like you're AI native and you're growing up in this world, I think it'll be 4 people, spitting it off and really kind of like crushing all across the board. It's a scary time for, I would say, white collar workers, but it's a scary time for a lot of people. I'm nervous for a lot of people on even my team, but I try to, and we mentioned this earlier, as a leader, I try to lead people in my company, and I'm leading them towards being AI native as much as possible.
Yeah. And my take on that, Lee, is yes, I do agree. Like there will be somebody that stumbles in. You hit the nail on the head with like right time, right place. They just rode like some massive wave and they get to 100 million. Do I think it's a sustainable long-term brand? I would argue like probably not. I think that they get to big revenue thresholds, but I don't think it like maintains, because what I do see in the future is like, look, I truly don't believe humans are going to be extinct. However, that middle level manager level, I think that definitely becomes really challenging, and especially like the VA level. So what I do think the future looks like is, I think arguably you have $100 million brands that are run with, maybe it's 10 to 20 really smart, really dialed in operators that have really good frameworks, that like somebody is like the wizard of supply chain and just has bot after bot after bot that is like super dialed in on all the best supply chain strategies. Then you've got somebody on the marketing side, right? Somebody on the ops side, and the list goes on and on. But I think what I see right now is like the biggest arbitrage is like, bring in the smartest minds that you can right now, enable them with AI, and let them go to town. I think that always will be the biggest arbitrage opportunity, is like the massive ROI that you can get from hiring the one right person that can go scale things. But again, AI needs feedback and it needs oversight, because I would be like, I honestly would not just give it to OpenClaw and be like, learn the best PPC practices from everybody and go.
It's insane to do that, right? Like if you think about it, if everybody does that, what's your edge? Like there is no edge. If you go and you say, okay, I'm going to do a Perplexity, deep dive, and you have that run. Okay, well, how do I utilize my SQP data to maximize my PPC? Great. I can do the same thing. You're going to do the same thing. We're all going to have the same strategy. We're all going to be deploying the same tactic at the same time, and therefore there's no edge. So it's you need to be ahead of the curve, and I don't think that AI is really like, unless you're publishing papers and saying like this is what you're doing, which people are, and I'm not saying don't like lean on these deep research in order to educate yourself and educate your team to build the framework that works for you and your brand, but to kind of white label this is it's frankly it's reckless. It's turning around and saying, okay, well, whatever the output is, I'm going to just trust because I don't know any better. But you should know better because it's your business, and you should be. I know that you've done podcasts on this. I've had my HR person watch your hiring video, and it was incredibly impactful. But having the right people, it's going to be like, I think, unfortunately for them, C players and B players are going to go the way of the dinosaur, and they're going to have to go back to manual labor. It's sad, frankly, and it's kind of scary. But if you're not hungry and you're not like you don't have grit and discernment, I think that like that's really where where the world is going, and that's what I'm trying to surround myself with for my team.
Yeah, fantastic. Foresight where I think things are going. Now, Lee, let's turn our attention into like, all right, so our listeners, they're on this, they get what we're picking up here. Let's give them some tactile things. So like, how are you implementing AI? Like, give me some practical, like, are you automating PPC right now? Or what are you automating? What's worth automating? What's not worth automating? Give us some specific use cases.
Yeah. So like it's depending on the level of where you're at. And so I'll speak first to the newcomer into the space. And what I'll always say is like newcomer, for your entire audience, nobody's behind. I think that there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of influencers out there. Everybody's saying like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you will get AI anxiety, which I get. I mean, I don't sleep sometimes and I think I'm not doing enough and I need to be doing way more. And, you talk to a friend and they've automated this part, like I mentioned before, and your brain starts to turn off like, why have I not done this yet? And if I don't do this, my competitors are going to eat me. Unfortunately, I do think like it is semi a war, like meaning like you got to prepare yourself, but that doesn't mean that it's too late. It's not at all. So getting started is the first step. Like literally go watch some YouTube videos on like what a Claude MD file is or a skill and how to best build those. And really, like I said, framework of educating yourself around AI, which we'll talk about like some tools later. But in terms of like, once you acclimate yourself, I'm a big fan of Claude. I think most people are at this point, especially in the business world, utilizing, AI in order to like analyze content. For me, like sitting and reading the Cosmo paper, I'm not sitting and reading the white paper. I've done this before for other white papers, and I just don't have the attention span. But what we've done is we've actually built out a framework of, okay, well, how does Cosmo run? How's our copy laid out? Because it's drastically changed from what it used to be, and then rewriting our copy in order to match the framework that Amazon has now laid out for us. So like that was a pretty massive unlock, and it's not a uber complicated one because allowing like AI to help you with that framework. You don't need to be the rocket scientist that knows how you want it to all laid out. Like before, when I was mentioning framework, you don't have to be a framework kind of person. You just need to take the time to converse with AI to say, I don't know much about frameworks. I need to build a proper framework. What is a good one? But then when it spits out the answer, that's where you have to actually sit and read through the answer. Don't just accept it and say, great, hand it over to your copywriter and be like, I've automated this. That's not the way to do it. People are like rolling out various softwares like left and right. I don't know if those are all necessary. I think it's more of like, looking at what you can do in your own business, and not necessarily getting death by 1,000 SaaS softwares right now.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. And I think here's a big use case that I see a lot of people that I think should be the first place people start. Anything admin related, right? Like any admin, like the email management aspect can be good, but like, my goodness, you're going to have to spend a good amount of time like training it, right? Because like email is extremely nuanced. Thinking that you can like, I read these things and I hear these videos of people like, yeah, AI now manages my email inbox. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of nuances because like I have a personal relationship with so-and-so. And so when they email me, it's a different like rule. Like they get priority, like direction to me. Whereas some of the other people, I'm going to be like, yeah, ignore that, or that's spam, or, and I think like AI is just, it's rules, like, but you have to be able to provide it so much context but most importantly, give it feedback so that it continues to learn and grow. I think that the danger I think I see happening right now, Lee, is like everybody feels like they're behind. So they're trying to adopt AI and they're doing it, frankly, in a very lazy way. I've been actually extremely frustrated with like now it almost seems like emails. It's like just like the bots talking to each other. And
Yeah, if I get an M dash, man, if I get an M dash in an email, get it though.
100%. But that's what's crazy is like I see that happen 90% of the time. And that's just like lazy. Like, hey, I've trained my AI to be like, never give me a freaking M dash because like that is the obvious like signature. ChatGPT wrote this. And like an example is like I was working with the creator and was emailing them back and forth. And every response that I got back from them, they literally copied and pasted everything that chat gave them. So much so that like the subject line at the top was, hey, use this subject line and then blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that is so bad.
So
but
lazy.
I think
so lazy.
A lot of people are taking that option. And I think like humans are smart enough, like people are starting to discern that. And I think that's where we go in the future. And so I think like people need to be careful with your AI images. I had somebody on yesterday where it's like, hey, your use of AI in your images actually might be hurting your brand. And
100%.
Because like
could not agree more.
You're using all these stupid AI tools that everybody has. And so you're getting the same look and the same feel. And now your brand has basically gone into the ether and you don't have any differentiation. You all look the same. And then there's just something off most of the time with AI. And you can tell if you really look. And at least today, that you could even watch AI videos and be like, I'm pretty sure that's AI. It's going to be harder in the future, I'm sure. But like, that's what I'd say is like, there's still a very important like human element involved in all of this. And that's what I think I want to communicate to the listeners here. Is like, the world is not just like automate everything with AI. And if you're not doing that, you're going to be left behind. It's like, just use AI to make yourself 10 times more productive. That's the use case right now.
So it's interesting you say that because like there was actually I think it was a Wall Street Journal article that came out explaining how AI has made us more productive. We're actually less productive. We're more stressed because we're spinning our wheels. And I don't disagree at all. It becomes where if you spend the time to build, like I keep saying, like the framework, right? Like I spent time building out my virtual EA. And I actually gave I watched a YouTube video and I can attach it. I can send it to you later, put in the show notes if you want. Great one. It was like, hey, here's a framework, 45 minutes, set up your virtual EA. I sent that to my actual executive assistant, who I've now upgraded to my chief of staff. And she was like, dude, this is freaking awesome. Please don't fire me. And I was like, I promise I won't. But listen, every single morning I get my calendar in Slack. Every pre-meeting, I get a message of, hey, you're going to be talking with Josh Hadley. This is everything. It looks through my email, it looks through my Fireflies, looks through my Slack to say, what do I know about Josh? And it compiles everything. So like 5 minutes before, I'm not like, wait, what am I doing? Who am I talking to? What is this conversation about? Like, that's what I typically like bother my EA about. And then it goes through my ClickUp and it's like, you haven't done these things. It's listed as high priority. To me, that all of a sudden allows not, okay, well, I'm going to fire her. It's like, you're totally not fired. You're elevated. You're going from EA to chief of staff. You're now helping and implement this for every single person on my leadership team. Why do they not have EAs? I mean, everybody should have this. And it's not hard to set up. It's daunting. I will say the first time I opened Claude Code, I was like, no, not for me. Nope. Like I looked at the terminal, I was like, I am not that guy. And then the moment you just play around with it, and then you're like, okay, whoa, I didn't realize like I could go to a website, but it's cool. Like you can, everybody can do these things. It just becomes scary to do it. Yeah.
Totally agree. Love that sentiment. So I love the use case of like your EA becoming like a chief of staff, definitely like automating your admin tasks. What else are you using it? How are you using it with your team members?
So I'll tell you one it's more complex. So just bear with me for a second, but it's very cool. Watched a YouTube video, this guy that I follow, and he was talking about something called Open Brain. And the concept is that, you have ChatGPT, you have Claude, you have all these different LLMs, but they all have different memories of you. Why don't you create a central repository like a database of your memory of who you are that can kind of speak to all different models, and whatever you talk to them about, it gets ingested, and then you have like a brain, your brain. So I thought to myself, I said, wait, okay, that's cool. What would be really cool is I record every call on Fireflies. People use Granola, you can use Gemini, whatever you want. I also have Slack and I have my emails. I actually then took it a step further. I ingested all of that. And I'm talking like 3 years worth of Fireflies notes, tons of Slack messages with every client. I didn't do email yet because it's a little too sensitive. Like I don't know what it's really ingesting there, but I've put it into what they call a vector database, not to get too complicated. And now I actually have a agent brain where I can say, hey, what happened with XYZ account last week? Or like in January of 2025, was like, how are sales, or what happened with inventory then? And it looks through all of these conversations and it actually spits out, well, this is what happened. Now take that and pair that with an actual database, meaning my Amazon sales dipped in January 2025. And so this year, my sales are up 80% year over year. What's going on, right? Everybody has that. You forget when you sell out of something for 4 days, or your logistics manager messed up, or your listing went down. Nobody remembers every single day. And so if you have this brain that you can pair with your data, it all of a sudden makes like the analysis actually way more, like it's not even accurate. It just gives the context. And so everybody's talking about context is king. And so really record all your calls. Like I tell this to everybody. It's like you don't know when you're going to need it until you need it. And I'm not saying it to spy on people. I don't care. One-on-one calls, I don't ingest those. One-on-one messages, I don't ingest those. But if it's in a logistics channel, I want to know everything there so that we can figure out what can we do to be better. That's really the main crux. It's a cool project. Took me a while to set up. I will say that was a bit of a struggle because I'm also an agency and I have multiple people accessing the brain, and I had to tier out like
careful.
Yeah, like, well, like only I can see this and leadership can see that, and then the rest of the team can see this. So I had to like categorize different things. It was complex, but it's very cool that it's rolled out.
Yeah, I love that. So here's another idea that I had on that, Lee, especially as it relates to like just being yourself as an entrepreneur, the goals, you yourself as a person. How can you add this? My unlock here. So I journal every single week and have been for a decade plus.
Love that.
And you're kind of like sharing that. I was like, that's exactly what I need to do, is like provide that to, that brain, so to speak. That's like, here are my personal feelings and my thoughts. Like, now you understand who I am, like in more detail.
Soup to nuts, for sure.
Like, and so I think like one of the best things that any entrepreneur can do is like do that practice of journaling and then feeding all of the context that you can. I think that's a massive takeaway. Record everything that you can and upload whatever you can so that this AI can truly exponentially scale things for you, because like it's only as good as like the information that it has. But if I just go tell it to like, go optimize my PPC campaigns, it will certainly go do that for me today, but it is going to be like, I'm just going to make this decision for you because I have no other context and you didn't give me guardrails and things like that. And I think that just becomes like the humans driving these systems need to be like the architects. Like that's the best thing that I could describe, is like, you've got to architect all of these agents to be able to design them to do exactly what you want them to do. Otherwise, you do start having it steer you off into the wrong direction.
We're now like taking a look and saying, okay, well, I've done a bunch of audits. Like I said, we're a boutique agency. We're managing 14 brands at the moment, but we're scaling. But I do audits all the time for, I don't say anybody, but pretty much like people in MDS come to me and they're like, hey, do you mind taking a look under the hood? And we do that. And so I have a bunch of these audit calls. I was like, well, what are the common themes with all of them? And eventually, like, I'm the salesperson, but I can have somebody on my team do an audit call without me, but they'll have my notes as if like, how would Lee frame this account, which is unique, right? It's what makes us and not another somebody else, right? It's like, what makes your brand your brand? There's other sellers, Chinese sellers, domestic sellers that are selling exactly the same products as you, but what makes yours is, your special sauce, you. So replicating that, I think is like it's a massive unlock. It allows you to then sit back and people can stop asking you questions. They're like, hey, what do you think of this? It's like, well, did you ask I call it Brian because it's like misspelled brain. And I'm like, just go ask Brian. go ask Brian, come back to me. If Brian says, hey, Lee would have thought this, like I'm interested to see what it says. So it's pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Definitely fun. Yeah.
Now, Lee, you've been in some rooms recently with some really smart like brand operators that have been sharing like how they're implementing AI into their tech stack and overall brand. What did you hear from those conversations? How else do you hear other brand owners using it? Best, worst case scenarios?
Yeah. So I will say a lot of brand owners are not really using it as much as they could, should, it doesn't really matter. But I think a lot of brand owners are focusing on, like I mentioned earlier, their businesses. But I do think that the ones that are using it, it's pretty wild, right? There's the OpenClaw, area that is exploding, not the easiest to set up, security risks, all that. But what is able to be automated using OpenClaw is pretty sick, and we're doing that internally as well. We've named ours Ava, so it's like our AI virtual assistant, right? So, and she, perfect example is buy box, right? If you're omni-channel and you're selling, whether to distributors or also on retail, we have Ava getting alerts of when you lose a buy box. And if you were losing, it's like, okay, well then all of a sudden it takes a look at either Rainforest API or Keepa to say, who are we losing the buy box to? Because I don't want it scraping Amazon directly, get flagged. So it's, okay, well, you're losing it to another seller. How many units does that seller have if there's a reseller? Or if you're losing it because your product is sold on Target for cheaper, we then automatically are emailing or slacking the client saying, hey, it's sold on Target for this price. Please message the buyer, or do you want us to match the price? That's normally a human being doing that process. And when the client responds, lower price, again, I haven't fully automated that part yet because I get nervous about allowing an AI to lower price without a human in the loop. It's more of, okay, we'll now ping the human to go lower that price. But that process is happening instantaneously. Those are things that we can, it's on 100% of the time, or really when it gets that alert and that ping. But that's something that, there's no weekend, there's no nighttime. It's just on, which is amazing to have. And it's accurate, again, with the right guardrail, with the right framework, with the right system, which is the most important thing to reiterate for the 13th time. If it has that, then it's accurate 100% of the time. And when you realize it's not accurate, go and fix your skill, your Claude MD file, and like take the time to fix these things and not just be like, I'll get it later, because it'll continue to make that mistake.
What are you doing to, Amazon's coming out with like some very strict like AI rules, and I think that will continue to evolve. But like, how do you make sure you don't get caught in the crosshairs where it's like you do have a bot that's scanning it and somehow it's connected to you and blah, blah, blah. I mean, who knows what that future looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's terrifying.
Like, what are you doing from that standpoint to be like, who's checking the buy box and how do you know it's lost or whatever?
Yeah. So I mean, I think most people, should build out some type of database of their own. Supabase is super easy one to connect. And again, if you're using Claude, say like, hey, I know nothing about tech. I don't know what I'm doing. I need, to connect to Amazon's API. Give me the step-by-step, and it will. And like, just again, take the time to do that and ingest your data. But you can get those notifications of when you're losing a buy box through an API. So, and then go and take a look at, say, I already mentioned Rainforest API or Keepa. These are external scraper tools. I would not have your bot or agent go and scrape Amazon. Like, do everything you can to not flag. Don't give it access to Seller Central. Somebody asked me recently, like, what happens if they do get into Seller Central? I'm like, they don't even have a login. Like, there's none of that. Instead, what I have is a human being that now has a lot more, again, it's click work, but there's still a human in the loop on that front, at least for us, because I just don't trust the system yet entirely until I've truly vetted it over, call it 6 months. So you got to pay another person for 6 months in order to input and open cases with Seller Central or, what have you. Not a problem. Right now, you're paying these people anyways. They're just more accurate and they're more efficient, and they have time to think about or do other things.
Yeah, I love that. Here's another thought that I had, or a video that I watched on TikTok recently, was somebody that had said, great, I fired my team member, but then I spent $5,000 a month in tokens to go replace that team member. And it's like, okay, well, if you just spent $5,000 in tokens, yes, that role might be automated, but what if that team member only cost you $1,000 to begin with? Right now, will AI get cheaper? Certainly, I think it will. And I think that was like a very extreme example, and you've got to be pulling some incredible like connections to be able to burn that many tokens. But like, give me your take on that. Like, is there a risk reward and like cost benefit right now where it's like, is there a world where humans are actually cheaper than the AI itself?
Oh, For sure, yes. On certain instances, even take a look at SaaS as a perfect example. Somebody's like, oh, like whether it's Seller Board, or you can take a Hector, automating PPC, or Scale Insights. Like somebody, he was telling me like, well, SaaS is dead. I can build all this myself. Like, sure. I mean, you're talking $100 a month, or $30 a month, or whatever the subscription fee is. You're going to, instead of spending $1,200 a year, you're going to sit for how many hours and try to reconfigure what they've done? It's a massive waste of your time. Like, what are you doing to leverage yourself and leverage your business? What's the ROI? Which I don't think people are stopping to actually meditate on and say, what's the ROI on my time? And what am I doing? Instead, they heard that their friend created these automation tools without using Scale Insights or Hector. And it's like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. It's like, okay, just because one guy wasted their, weekend doesn't mean that you should. But again, also, it's like, I don't know, do you have kids? Do you have a wife, or you have no life? I don't know what you want to do with your time, but those are the things. I think that's where the 4 kids making a $100 million brand, those guys are just, literally eating Zen and blasting music and just like coding until 5 a.m. Sure. But I happen to have 2 kids, and I'm not there yet, or anymore, shall I say.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. And I think that is where, that's my biggest caveat right here to all the listeners. Like, there's been multiple posts, even in MDS right now, right, where people are saying like, hey, I spent 4 or 6 hours trying to figure out like creating this dashboard to replace Scale Insights or to replace Seller Board or something like that. Like, I want one of those sexy dashboards. And I look at that and I say, that's great, but it might take you 10 hours to set up. Then guess what? It's not going to set up and run perfectly. As soon as some API connection changes, you're going to have to debug this on an ongoing basis. And so what is the real ROI? Hey, if you're just trying to get rid of Seller Board and save yourself $100 a month, like, man, that's a terrible exchange of value. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
I certainly hope you're worth more than $10 an hour because it took you 10 hours just to set up in the first place, let alone the ongoing cost of that. But secondly, I think the importance here is like, automate the things that give you leverage to go create more ROI in the business. Because I don't think a dashboard, a sexy dashboard, unless it's helping you make a decision that you otherwise would never have been able to make, I think it's just wasted time. Because it's like, yeah, I don't love the look of Seller Board. I could add this extra bell or whistle, but like, does that 10x my business? Arguably, that would be a no.
Right. So, it's interesting. Dashboards are human need, right? And so it's like, we need to visualize and see a dashboard. That's not what AI needs. It doesn't need dashboarding. And so to do an analysis. So I think people are putting the cart way before the horse, and the horse is the only thing that really matters because that's what's actually moving everything. So that's where what I was saying before is it is important to own your data. It is important to start to download that from Amazon into a database, whether it's SQL or Supabase, whatever it might be, in order to create the analysis to say, okay, well, sales are down. Why is that? What, again, the ABCs of which SKU is it? Is it an A SKU, and where is it in the life cycle? Those type of things that will allow you to make an informed decision, because it's really discernment is going to be what wins the game of whether you're going left or you're going right, whether you're increasing your ACoS threshold or whether you're decreasing it in order to save on profitability. Those are what's going to make or break your business. That's what changes you from the other guys. It's your decision making. And that goes for everything from copy to creative to all of that. It's all decision making at the end of the day, because you're going to just get AI slop, and you can decide whether or not you want to accept that or not. Right. So I think what I mentioned earlier is, AI is making it less efficient because we are inundated with decisions every single day already. And now you have to discern whether or not the output is even worth validating. You have to revalidate that, which is exhausting. So building out that framework of data, I think is worthwhile. The dashboarding, I'd say it's just a waste for now.
Well said. Lee, as we wrap things up, there's one other thing that we talked about that I think would be interesting for our listeners to hear, which is, how did you turn your team members, 30 plus team members, onto AI? And I think you had a very unique approach where you offered it up and said, hey, I'll pay for it if you're interested. Why did you do that? Tell our listeners, like, what's the strategy behind that?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, your job as a business owner and as a leader is to lead. And I think the whole world is changing. right? It's kind of, again, terrifying, but also exciting that we're entering this whole new realm of AI and like what the world will look like in a year, 2 years, where our kids will go to school. It's all an unknown. Your job is to lead your team with empathy and care into this new world. In order to do that, they need the tools to succeed. Your job, you're not their dad, right? I always make the joke of like, we're not family because I can't fire family, but you are a team. And so as a coach, as a leader, you have to give them those tools, and whether or not they jump on those and use those, that's whether or not they're, you know, Michael Jordan on the Bulls in 95 and Scottie Pippen. That's how hard they work. It's all about how hard and what they want. So what I did was I got on the call. I told my team, hey, listen, the world's moving towards AI. This is a few months ago. Who wants in? I'm making an AI channel. A couple of people joined. And then I got another call about a month and a half ago. I said, guys, this is crazy. The moment Opus 4.6 came out, I was like, who wants a Claude account? If you want one, message me. I got you. Don't worry about it. I'll pay for whatever course you want to take whatever time you want to take. Again, I want to be the one that enables them, whether they go and they start another agency. I don't care what they do. Go do. But like, my job for them is to give them those tools to be a better person themselves and survive of whatever apocalypse is going to come. And so a few people did everybody on my leadership team did take me up on that. And then a few people took me up, and the rest haven't really. And it's one where, as we automate things and as we go into this next phase of AI and of my business of Stonecutter as an agency, there will be cuts that are made. And those people will be replaced by AI, what I call them AI native people, who think more with AI than not. It's like, how do I automate, or how do I use this tool, than those that don't. And so it's going to be very interesting for the people that haven't taken it. I hate to say they're going to go the way of the dinosaur, but I do think like white collar jobs are going to go away. They're going to have to be, well, I think manual labor and more in-person is going to be back because people have to do something. And so it'll be an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, I love that approach, especially the fact that like you're only paying for those pro accounts or whatever for the people that actually raise their hands and are interested. So that, again, 2/3 of your team that's not even touching it, you're not just wasting your money either by giving everybody a paid account. So really well spoken there. Now, Lee, I love to leave the audience with 3 actionable takeaways from every episode. Here are the 3 actionable takeaways that I noted. You let me know if I'm missing something. In the world of AI that we are moving towards, there is a lot of noise that is out there. But action item number 1 is, I think, like, no matter what happens with AI, this is the best practice that you can do today to prepare yourself and to even begin on your AI journey. And that is documenting your SOPs and getting your house in order and making sure every single team member on your team actually has an SOP that they are following, and that it's not just like high level, surface level stuff. I would encourage them to go flesh it out in even more detail with AI and take that SOP and then ask AI, like, what questions do you have based on this SOP, so that you could go execute this thing, and then answer those questions, upload that as a document, and say, all right, this is now hopefully ready when we're ready to go execute or automate this task. So that's action item number 1. AI is go ahead.
I'll just interrupt. Sorry, just because I think let's just replace SOP with skill, because I think SOPs are, it's a process, but a skill is like, okay, well, how is that process done, and what tools do you need, and what's a framework of thinking? Let's say replenishments. It's like, okay, the SOP is look at X amount of weeks worth of inventory, X, Y, and Z. That becomes more of a skill. And the main reason to get that house in order, you're using Claude right now. What you think Google's not right around the bend and going to come out with a bunch of incredible tools. Google's going to be a massive player, whether ChatGPT comes in or OpenAI comes in back into, because I think they're falling from grace, but whether you port it from their Claude elsewhere, if you have these documents, you can move your whole system from LLM to LLM relatively easily. So that's really the most important part there as well.
Yeah, I love that mindset shift. Skills instead of SOPs. Well said. All right, second action item here is make sure that every call happening in your business is being recorded, especially if they're team-related calls. Even if other team members are having an internal meeting and call, and I might not be present, I still want that recorded so that it goes into the company brain to understand, hey, there was this whole conversation about inventory and forecasting and planning, and these were the decisions and thoughts and conversations and questions that were being asked in that meeting. That goes into the context so that, again, The AI brain just has more to work with and understands our business in even more detail. And then my third and final action item is to do exactly what you said there at the end, Lee, which is to enable your team members. Be an AI first driven leader and enable your team members. Don't think that you have to go this alone. You do have to lead the charge. You do need to experiment yourself, but enable your team members. Give them the tools, give them paid access. But I love what you did, which is only give it to those that are interested, that'll actually do something with it, because otherwise it can get real expensive real fast. And those are the people that you know are raising their hands. They're probably going to be your future leaders in the business. Those are going to be the people that are managing all the AIs and the bots and the agents moving forward. So Lee, those are my 3 action items. Anything else you would add?
No, I think I think you nailed it.
Awesome. Lee, final 3 questions for you. Number 1, what's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
It is a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I must have read it 7 times. My dad bought it for me. I didn't read it. And then he bought it again. And another one just showed up. And I was like, okay, I read it. It changed my life and the way that I think. And I think, I got to tell you, I have personally bought it for, I think it's over 40 people at this point. It's the most influential book on like how you think and how your brain works with your soul. So
interesting. That's a great recommendation. Haven't heard that one before.
Great one.
Question number 2, what is your favorite AI tool and how you've been using it?
Yeah, I mean, like the obvious one is Claude, and Claude Code as of late is just absolutely mind-blowing what it can do. But to go even more simple, for anybody not using Whisperflow, which is a voice dictation tool, in order to use Claude Code, it's just like pressing a button in order to just talk. And it's not one of these like normal voice dictation that throws it through an LLM and cleans it up for you. It is a game changer. Typing these days is like, I'm just moving so slow. As you guys can tell, I talk pretty quickly. And so I will go on a rant for about 40 minutes, especially when we're talking about building frameworks and giving context. I will talk to, Claude and say, here's what the structure is. Here's a skill that I want to be building. I'll just talk and allow it to ingest all of that. I would say Whisper is my number 1. Claude's number 1, but Whisper is like 1.1.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Third and final question here for you, Lee, is who is somebody that you admire or respect the most in the Ecomm space that other people should be following and why?
So it's a very hard question because I love so many different people. I've been in the Ecomm space for so long, but here's a sleeper that I absolutely love and adore. His name is Sean Gill, and he's not he's not on Twitter or anything like that, but his brand Triquetra is a supplement brand that has done incredibly well on TikTok and Amazon and killing it on D2C. The reason why I say that is I know Sean very well. His way of thinking and his putting processes first and framework first and building in a responsible manner and scaling and allowing his team to scale with those processes is just the most admirable thing I've seen. There's nobody I know that has sat and meditated on various like books, called copywriting. Guy will read 4 different copywriting books and not just like, skim them. He'll actually think about, okay, well, how do we make our copy better? So if there's a brand that I would say, it's not the sexiest brand in the world, no offense, Sean, love you, but take a look at Triquetra and what they're doing in the space. It's remarkable how much they've grown on a brand that is hard to pronounce, hard to spell, and certain products that are not the sexiest in the world, but they've scaled to high 8 figures. They're going to break 9 figures soon. It's pretty
Fantastic.
incredible.
I know his dad, and again, John Gill is also wicked smart as well.
Yeah, John Gill is a legend and definitely a character. Sean's an incredible person. If anybody gets to know him, awesome person.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, if people want to follow you, learn more about you, connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah. My email is lee@stonecutter.nyc. I am always available to chat with anybody about Amazon. We're an Amazon only brand agency rather, and so that's all we do. I think I mentioned this earlier to you. I interviewed Josh getting into MDS, and I did about 100 interviews in the first year or in 1 year of all MDS members. I just like talking to people, networking, sort of a superpower of mine. So always for anybody in your audience to reach out, ask any questions. Happy to help in whatever way I can. And then if you want to follow my social media, personal, it's the Stonecutter. That's both on Twitter and Instagram.
Fantastic. Lee, thanks again for your time today.
Josh, absolute pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecommbreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.